Okay, good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is the 14 July meeting of the Finance Committee. It's been a while since we've met. Last meeting was around the Springtown meeting, so welcome back, everybody. We'll get right into the agenda. It's going to be a short agenda. We've got some things that we have to do, but definitely some things that I wanted to do. And first and foremost is to welcome our, we have two new members to the committee. So first, to my right, John Stedman, and to my left, Peter Underhill. So welcome.
Thank you.
So glad that you volunteered your time to the committee, because we need, as we said during Springtown meeting, thoughtful inputs, and I'm sure we'll get that, and healthy discussion, healthy debate, and different viewpoints. So glad to have you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Pleasure.
We do have a couple of other members that are not in attendance. I don't see them doing this meeting both in person for the first time in a long time, so which feels nice as well. And we have a couple of members that may join us via Zoom, but a couple that couldn't attend as of right now. So next on the agenda is the FY21 Interdepartmental Transfers. So let's see. I'm going to call Carol Johnston, if you could, and would you please get us started with a little overview and information on the interdepartmental transfers.
Okay. So the interdepartmental transfers are something that happens every single year, and all it is to balance between departments. Some departments might be in deficit, some departments have a surplus. So this is just a balancing about departments. It's not going over our authorized budget at town meeting, but more that it is just making sure that each department is not in deficit for the end of the year. I had sent out, and I also handed out tonight the documents that you go into. The first document you'll sign at the end of the meeting, and the second document, if you want to take a look at it, it's the colored sheet. Did you get a copy, Jody? Yeah. And the colored sheet, we can go through that. This is the breakdown of the interdepartment. Yes. Of the interdepartmental transfers that we're going to be going over. So the first we're going to do the departments that have surplus, and they are going to fund the departments that are in deficit. So the first item is a transfer from special articles. It's for $19,824.02. That's from fiscal year 20 Fall Town Meeting Article 3 for the IT director. It was a special article. The remainder is no longer needed. We did hire a full-time IT director. He did start in June, and the original article was for $25,000. We paid him for his June service, so the remainder isn't needed for. He is in the budget fully for FY22, so this is all set. The next item that we're going to use to fund the deficits are special articles, prior year unpaid bills. We have a balance left of $516.92, so we'll be taking that to fund our departmental deficit. The next item is special article from Fall Town Meeting 15. It's annual town meeting, Article 16, building improvement. That's the residual left from that particular project that's no longer needed. So that's $894.15. There are two capital articles that we're using to fund the departmental transfers this year. The capital project from fiscal year 19 Fall Town Meeting, Article 9, voting booths. Again, this is the residual balance that was left from that capital article of $1,737. On the next capital project is from fiscal year 19 Fall Town Meeting, Article 9, for the Veterans Memorial Building flooring. There was a residual balance of $5.40, and we're using that as well. We're also going to transfer from the reserve fund the remaining balance of $23,899.11. From the general insurance fund, $5,358 even, and that is because the insurance came in lower than expected. Our employee benefits had a surplus of $4,690.51. That's savings from the health plans. The next item is police salaries. They had a surplus of $3,448.86 from wages. That's because they had one of the patrol officers left, and the position wasn't filled until just recently, so there was a surplus. Street lighting expenses, the next item, that's $4,227.77. They use LED lights in the some of the street lighting, and also the DPW director had said that they were going to lower the street lighting during certain times during the year to keep the street lighting down. So that's what that's from. Board of Health salaries is another item that was in surplus for $4,489.03. Again, they had a new employee. The nurse, the regular nurse left, and they hired a new one, but later on, so there was savings in salaries on that line. Board of Health expense, $3,638.71. Their expenses came in less than expected. A lot of the information was vaccine funding, and that's from the federal government this year. On the Council on Aging, there was a surplus of $5,364.72. That's because of van drivers were not used as much this year due to COVID-19, so that those funds are available for us to use as a transfer. On the Veteran Services expense, $588.88. Their expenses were less than expected this year. On the Memorial Day expense, there's a remainder in that fund of $137.72. Again, the expenses were less. Library salaries, there was $2,196.16. The wages were less than expected, and that was due to the library pages. Library expense again for $3,244.04, and that was due to the library materials coming in less than budgeted. And the last item is the debt service for $1,586.32, and that is the short-term interest was lower than expected. So the items that this is going, these surplus is going to fund are down the next area. Did you have any questions?
I do have a question. Okay.
Jody.
In the very first line item, it says it's for fiscal year 20,
Right.
fall town meeting, so that was not last fall, it was the fall before?
Right.
Okay. Because I know we've had a couple of articles that were for IT director funding, but
Right.
I just wanted to make sure we had it labeled correctly, because I know you're going to have to go back and look at it.
Right.
Great, thanks.
Right, yes, we did, Lisa and I went through these and pulled out the actual article, so that's how we
Perfect.
come up with
Thank
where
you.
it was. Okay, so the uses were down to the lower part of the document, so that this is the uses of the areas that need to be funded. The treasurer collector salary needs to be increased $352.49. That's due to overtime because of the staffing. That office is a very compact office with 4 people. So during the COVID, even though we were allowed to come back in the building, we still had to keep only 2 people to the office instead of 4. So there was a little bit of overtime that was needed in order to cover everything. Treasurer collector expense, $11,295.43. That's for the tax attorney. That typically was covered under the selectmen's budget, but this year it had to be covered by the treasurer's department. We did budget $4,000, but as you can see, it came in well over the $4,000 for the tax title that we did.
Can I interrupt you on that one? Can you
Sure.
go into a little bit more explanation on what the services, what was different about the services that were rendered that made the budget make it almost 3 times as much as estimated?
I think that there's a lot of work that goes into because these things go into tax title, so a lien is put against the property for the back taxes that aren't paid, and so each of these have to be reviewed by the attorney before they can be put into here. So I just think that we probably we didn't expect it to be that amount.
Mm-hmm.
We'll hopefully be a little bit better at budgeting in the future, just because it never had to be budgeted in the treasurer's office.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reasoning behind it. It was just our best guess estimate at the time, but we didn't have any insight into what they were truly charging us because it went through the selectman's office before.
Mr. Chair? So is that work related to capturing back taxes? And
Yes, so what
so
happens, yes.
we pay the attorneys, but presumably we get more than what we pay the attorneys when we collect
Well, on
these back
this,
taxes?
we actually put a lien on the property, so I believe that all of this goes through the Norfolk Registry of Deeds. Each one of these has to be recorded on the deed, that there's a lien against the property.
Are the costs reimbursed? So I think where Doug is headed with this is, one, is it worth it? And two, are the attorney's fees are part of the lien? Is that amount recovered?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I'll have to ask the treasurer on that, and then I'll have to get back to you, because I'm not sure if it is added into the cost.
Thank
Mr. Chair, when I've seen liens, I'm in real estate, I do a lot of research on titles, I have seen expenses included in the report that,
In the,
but that's not to say that it happens all the time, but I have seen it on certain titles that expenses are included.
right.
It'd be good to
Right,
know.
I
for sure.
will-
Some-
yeah, no,
when you
I'll
come back,
ask.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
I'll
We
ask
won't
the
hold this up,
treasurer.
I don't think.
Yeah.
I'm just, my guess is that over time, obviously you file the liens because we want to get the money.
Right, exactly.
Over time, the amount of money that we're getting back from filing these liens eventually more than offsets, well more than offsets whatever these fees are that we're paying these attorneys.
I would hope so, but I can't guarantee you that that's the answer, so I'd rather ask the treasurer so that we can be sure. But I know that each year she does go through this, putting things into tax title. It depends on how long the taxes are outstanding.
Thank you.
So the next item is town building expense, $10,000 for the Veterans Memorial electricity, town building expense of $8,000 for special expenditures, building expense of $16,425.05 for Veterans Memorial maintenance contracts. All of these items that deal with the town buildings, you'll remember at town meeting, we tried to do our balancing at that point because we had a lot of deficits in the public safety. So the town administrator and I, when we were sitting together, he thought these funds would be available, but as we got later in the year, certain things happened, and that's why they're in deficit now. If we hadn't taken the money to balance public safety at that time, we'd have to be doing it now as we're sitting here.
I understand. I would like just a little bit explanation on special expenditures, just because it's so generic.
Right, and on that, I believe it is, we have items that aren't covered by the insurance that have to be picked up. I think there was some expense for the gym floor, that even though it was water damage, there's money that had to be put toward that. So I think the special expenditures, from what I understand, it's the our amount of that we have to pay, in, $2,500 deductible for this item, $2,500. They had I think there were 3 incidents that they hadn't expected that they'd have to pay the deductible.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Finance Committee salary needs to be funded for $412.27 for overtime. Cherry sheet assessment needs to be funded for $32,612. That's for charter schools. So when we set the budget, we have to go off of what the state has given us, what the cherry sheet expenses they expect us to have, but this is actual. So when it came in higher than what we had in the budget.
Okay. And then, again, for me as well, but
Yep.
I'm sure, I suspect also our new members and others that are here, charter school essentially means when we send students out of district, there's funds that follow,
Right.
expenses that follow.
Exactly. So there's a charter school receiving and a charter school expending. In this case, it's a charter school expending. So what you're not seeing here is on the revenue side, we received an extra $48,000 from local aid from the state that we hadn't expected, and most of it was charter school. So we have to fund the expense line, so you're not seeing the what'll happen on that other extra 48,000, that'll roll into the free cash as part of our local aid.
So the difference of 16, sorry, Mr. Chair. The
Go ahead.
difference of 16,000 will,
Right, by the time it's done, right. And we also had an additional $6,750.08 of special education from the cherry sheet as well.
so then.
So it was
actually
39,000 total.
10,000.
Okay.
I did the math.
So the next part of the document is the unfunded deficit to raise on the tax recap. This is the only item that you're allowed to be in deficit on going into the end of the fiscal year, and that's snow and ice. So snow and ice wages exceeded our budget by $48,443.81. The snow and ice expenses exceeded the budget by $30,366.19 for total funding that'll have to be raised on the tax recap in the fall of $78,810. So on snow and ice, and because it's one of the only item that you're allowed to go into deficit in every year, you raise it on the recap. What happens at town meeting, everybody votes what your appropriations are, how much money you're going to spend. And then all that information gets put into a calculation based on what your real estate taxes are and the rest of it. But so they know how much money you have to raise to cover your operating budget for the new coming year. And then on top of that, we'll have to put in another $78,000 to cover this deficit. Last year, we did not have a deficit in snow and ice, and the year before that, there was a deficit, I think, of $97,000, and the year before that, it was $197,000. So it's one of the items you can never truly plan on. In the budget, right now, we have it at $218,000 for a budget. If we raise the budget on the snow and ice, we can never lower the budget on the snow and ice. So that's why it's always one of the items that you may leave. We don't know what's going to happen, but we know we can go in deficit, so.
And I'll just speculate, and you can correct me, but we did raise the budget here 2-3 years ago by probably $75,000. Is my memory right?
I can't remember, because I think it happened before I came on board, but I know that it was raised from some amount.
Yeah,
to-
we'd raised it a couple times. We were at
And just
140,
informally-
and then we went to 180,
And just informally, we did that because this was habitually underfunded. And we kept having to go back and at fall town meeting and vote in, and we just kind of knew, there's more roads in the town. Costs are really the costs aren't going down.
Right.
So we added funds to the budget. Whether we do that again this year remains to be seen, or next year remains to be seen, but there's a lot of history on this particular issue, and we certainly can get specifics if anybody wants to see them. So, thank you.
Okay. So the third page is the page that you'll actually be signing on instead of the colored page. I gave you the colored page because it has more detail. Where actually you'll be signing on the top page where it's by line of how it's voted at the town meeting. Right. And I actually have the documents here with the signatures, so I can get your signatures, if and when you would approve them for me, I would appreciate it.
Well, my intent is we will discuss
Okay.
it now. We will pepper you with some more questions possibly, and hopefully sign it, so.
So on the third page, that is the one for the enterprise systems. So right now, so we need to take from the sewer expense lines that has a surplus of $7,525 from their maintenance contracts to fund their salaries, the sewer enterprise salaries of $7,525. The water enterprise expense line has a surplus of $3,368, which we need to fund the water enterprise salaries of $3,368. And stormwater doesn't need any funding, any change in how they are.
Yet. Did I hear yet?
I mean, it's historic rain. One would assume stormwater would be affected
Yeah.
this fiscal year.
Oh, because of all this rain, that'll be in '22.
Exactly, that's why I say yes.
July.
Okay. I would like to open it to the floor for any questions on any part. Ms. Carroll's at your disposal for
Her
questions.
explanations are excellent.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I may.
Sure.
You may. Just for procedural and just kind of orientation, generally, and I'm not a stickler for this unless we have really vigorous debate, please just get my attention. You can look at me, and I will yield the floor to you. It's just, part of procedure that we adhere to. Beyond that, please just get my attention, and if you still don't get my attention by, if I fall asleep, throw something at me, or, just get my attention, I'll yield to you, and I'll manage the discussion. So, Peter.
So my question is on page 3 here, under the sewer enterprise expense,
Yes.
the $7,525 under savings under maintenance contracts going
Right.
towards salary.
Right.
Is that because our department did that work instead of a contractor? Like, how does
Oh, no,
that
the
fund?
maintenance contracts are, it's just that we budgeted higher than the maintenance contracts came in. So we have contracts with certain people to do, whether it's to keep up the water tanks or whatever. So it came in less than we expected, so the money was a surplus. We have it available to fund the salaries. The salaries overtime line went over. Whenever there's a water break, not even a major, but a water break, they have to call all the staff in, and of course, that's all in at an overtime rate if it happens other than during the regular workday.
Okay, just the numbers lined up a little too neatly. Does that cover the full amount?
Right, it does. So it just, in this particular case, it looks a little different because we only had to take from one fund, one expense line in order to cover the deficit in the salary. So that's what we did.
And I'll try to take that a step further. Is it safe to say that there's probably still funds on the sewer enterprise maintenance contract? You only took
Oh, yes.
what you needed?
Yes.
That's where I was getting at.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Anybody else?
Just a confirmation. So the current reserve, the reserve fund balance at 50,000, that's net of this reserve fund transfer.
So that's that $23,899?
Yeah.
Is exactly what is left of the $50,000 that was in the reserve fund to begin with. So no one asked for it, so we're pretty much asking for it now.
Because we're in a different fiscal year.
Right.
This is for the new fiscal year, and this is what was left from the previous fiscal year.
Right.
Hence my question that
I see.
they're just separate, that's all. They're separate fiscal years. So it is net.
Right.
There's 50 in there now.
There was 50, yes,
I get
yes,
it.
for 20, yes, as of July 1st.
But
you have
somebody might
50
look
more.
at this and say, how can we take 23 out and have 50 in? And
Right.
that's why.
No, you're right. It's not, right, so it clears out every year. It doesn't get to roll.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr.
Anybody
Chair,
else?
can you just remind us, what is the reserve fund for the new people and me?
Yes, so every year, typically, every year, the town will vote to put money into a reserve line, and it's kind of a emergency funding line. It is for expenses that are unanticipated within the town's budget, and I frankly have been kind of a stickler to make sure that it's unplanned. It's not for convenience. If there's something that needs to go back for some sort of emergency funding, then that's where it should, or unplanned funding, because if it's an oversight, then that's where it should go. It's not for convenience, it's a rainy day fund for something that's truly unanticipated. And there are rules that govern that, so we do our best to adhere to those.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair? Doug, could you explain exactly what you were saying about could you clarify, please?
If you could, please point to the line
So,
that you're referring to.
okay, so we're going to vote on a reserve fund transfer, and transfers from certain individual accounts to cover deficits in other accounts.
Right.
One of the accounts that we're going to take money from is the reserve fund for fiscal year 2021, which still has $23,899 left that was not used
I gotcha.
for emergency purposes.
So therefore, we have, okay.
And we currently have $50,000 in the FY '22 budget,
And that's this.
which
That's
is the current fiscal year, which we already voted on
on the
at
agenda.
town meeting.
Exactly. Because what we're doing tonight is closing out fiscal year 2021.
Correct.
Okay.
You have to have a good understanding of the fiscal year lines, the date lines, otherwise you can get lost pretty easily. But, and it's awkward because it's in the middle of the year, not necessarily at the end of the year or the calendar year, but.
Right.
All right.
Gotcha. Thank you, Doug.
Okay, unless there's any questions or comments for anyone, I'd like to take a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Jody.
I move that we approve the presented line item transfers in the amount of $85,847.32 as written up and described in this meeting.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve transfers as listed in the Board of Selectmen FinCom approvals of $85,847.32 with a funding sources identified for accounts that the money will be taken out of and accounts that the money will go to satisfy FY '21 requirements. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any, all those against, say nay, please. And we have 2 absences, no abstentions. Okay, and I'll take a motion on the snow and ice.
Mr. Chair,
Jody?
I move that we approve the 2 line item transfers for the sewer enterprise expense to sewer enterprise salaries in the amount of $7,525, and from water enterprise expenses to water enterprise salaries in the amount of $3,368 for, to balance out the FY =21 accounts.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to transfer funds from sewer maintenance contracts in the amount of $7,525 and water enterprise expenses in the amount of $3,368 and move those funds to sewer enterprise salaries in the same amount and water enterprise salaries for the same amount, respective amount. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any seconds? Any dissenting? Any nays? None heard? Okay, thank you. And do we need to vote on snow and ice?
I don't know that you need to vote on snow and ice.
I think we just hold it as a deficit right now.
Okay, so you want me to sign that one?
Yep.
Okay, we'll all sign this? Thank you.
And the other side.
Oh, thank you. Good
I don't want you to feel left out.
Split them up.
You want me to sign this?
This is going to
Oh,
get
where am I
confusing.
Right down this way.
No problem, we wanted to get together. I had a couple things that I did, Doug, don't laugh.
We have to have a year-end meeting every year, anyway. So
You haven't skipped a beat from Zoom to live.
all right.
I just got an advisory, I know.
I took my umbrella out of my bag, so I'll get rained on. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm prepared.
Yeah, mine's in my car.
Oh, this is
It's
select
okay if I
board's
have
over
to
there.
empty my pool one more time because of all this rain.
Oh, it's all in here and about,
ridiculous.
I know.
Killing my tomato plants, all this rain. you know.
Yeah, all my potatoes and all my vegetables, oh.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
A lot of frogs.
Yes.
You know, you're absolutely right. Little
Okay.
toads too, they're so cute.
Carol, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, so as several of you are well aware, Craig Schultz was elected to the Select Board, so that created a vacancy as for our Vice Chair. So I wanted to have some discussion and hopefully some nominations. There are a couple of members that are not here. I'm not quite sure whether that would stop us, because eventually this has to happen. So I know one of the things that we did discuss, if I recollect, in the spring was that Doug was going to step up potentially, and he's not overly excited about being the vice chair, but he would do it. He's currently serving as the clerk. There's nothing that says that the vice chair is the next chair, so I want everybody to keep that in mind. However, my personal opinion is that it's a good position to gain some experience working closely with the former or the incumbent, as I did last year. And again, there's really nothing, there's no special powers wielded by the chair other than the responsibility to run the meeting. We all have equal votes, we have equal say. There's just a little bit more responsibility that comes with it in terms of, I need to step up my prep for these meetings, and that's expected of the chairperson. And in my absence, the vice chair would run the meeting and have the same expectation. We have the same expectation of that person. So, with that said, any more informal discussion on nominations for a vice chair?
I think it's a wonderful idea to have him become our vice chair.
I think I should make clear, however, that it is not my intention to become the chair.
Correct.
So, to the extent that we view that position as being one that should be filled by someone who will step in to the chair, that's something that should be considered before we...
Who is our vice chair currently?
Vacant.
It
Was Craig.
It was Craig.
Was Craig.
Yep.
That's right.
Jody, are you willing to take on that responsibility
I have no
again?
problem taking on vice chair. Yeah.
I mean, if
That's a
you're not-
demotion.
Not if you want it.
Mr. Chair?
I didn't get a
I
pay
was just
increase
wondering-
when I was chair.
I was just wondering if, Joyce, you wanted to step up, and you've been coming active the last year or so, if you'd like to.
No.
Not
Well, Kathy, would you?
No, I'm already a chair of enough problems. No.
No,
Okay.
possibly but no.
I haven't talked to Jim or Katie to see if they are interested. We don't have
Thank
to,
you.
having not
You should be-
had that conversation,
Step up
we don't
into these
necessarily
seats.
have to vote on it tonight, but it needs to be on our agenda as an open item and carried forth, that we're not going to go too much further,
Until my head injury
another
is
meeting or two.
dealt
So-
with. I had
So-
She's explaining.
That said, I'd like to table it until at least we have a full representation, all 9 members, and then have that. And I'll reach out to Jim and Katie separately, just offline, and say, hey, would you consider this? And then we'll discuss it. I'll bring forth their information. So one of the things that is key, I think when our new members put their interest forward to the moderator, we sent you our guidelines, our rules and procedures. One of the items in there is the discussion, or is a discussion on quorum and public meeting rules. And, so one of the things that we make sure we do is not to have, email discussion or, we abide by that. We're not that difficult to do, really. We're just not going to have discussion, public, non-public or private discussion when there's a quorum present. So everything's done in the public. So I'll email them separately, and I'll say, please, next time you come to the meeting, please have given this some thought so that we can have a discussion on it and progress on it. So with that said, unless anybody has any objections, we'll just table it until our next meeting, which will likely be, August or September. We typically start our fall cycle of meetings mid-September, so that we prep for a fall town meeting. That's when we've done it in the past. I don't think we have fall town meeting first week in November. September we get, we start rolling, and there'll be a tri-board. Tri-board meeting is a meeting of the finance committee, the school board, and the select board together. We'll have like a jointed, typically we have a joint agenda. We'll give inputs on things that we want to discuss. And it's another public meeting. We'll each call our respective committee or boards to order, and I think it's a great way to get on the same page of music, or at least know where everybody's coming from and what their agenda or what their initiatives are for the coming year. So we usually do that 3 or 4 times a year. So for your awareness, and I'm sure you're aware already. Okay, so we've tabled that. We'll come back to that. We'll make a note to keep that on for old business. Deirdre, thank you very much. We're going to vote the payroll authorization. Let's put that here. Payroll authorization. Jody, I'm going to defer to you to. Let's see. So, let's see.
This is the vote.
There we go. Just make it a little easier. So we'll take a vote, we'll have some discussion. I'm just going to read this, and hopefully you've had a chance to look it over. I haven't, so this will be the first time. Finance Committee votes pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 41, to authorize either of the following 2 signatures below to sign and approve payroll. It is understood that this provision does not eliminate the responsibility of the other members of the committee. Vote will be required annually each July 1st with the same notification to the Finance Office as the committee's responsibility to withdraw any names and or reassign a signatory to approve payroll at any other time during the year with notification to the Finance Office stating the date of the duly posted meeting and the vote taken. The majority of your board is still required to sign all bills, payables, and schedules. The following signatures are authorized to approve signed payroll on behalf of the Finance Committee. So, Deirdre, a question for you. My options right now, typically it's been the vice and the chair that have done that. We've just deferred the vote on the chair. I'm happy to execute this with the chair and the clerk who are both present and execute it again later, or leave it as is.
Yeah, either way.
Okay. So I'm gonna suggest that we take a motion. Somebody give me a motion that we can discuss and vote on. We'll do this as the chair and the clerk, just for expediency.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Garzon.
I move that we vote to authorize the chair and the clerk of this committee to, either of whom, to sign and approve payroll in accordance with MGL Chapter 41, Section 41.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to assign or vote the chair of the committee, who's myself, and the clerk, Mr. Riley, to authorize and sign for payroll on behalf of the Finance Committee. Discussion. None heard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please say nay. None heard. Okay, motion passes.
I do note on my packet, however, that Mr. Berube is the chai.
He's the chai.
And you're the coconut.
That's a good find.
Mine
I
says
think it
chair.
just got cut off.
Mine
Mine
says
says shy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have chai. Chai, and Doug's the coconut.
Looks like it cut off or something, Dee, but mine's fine. The name's on the
vote
top,
of
yeah.
the payroll
Chair,
approval.
chai.
Deirdre, this other form, payroll employee data sheet, so having authorized that, one of us will sign, or both of us will do this later.
Actually, the chair has to sign.
Okay, I'll take care of that. Thank you. Actually, I'll do it now.
That's a
We'll
good
pass
find.
it.
I like that.
Second block, Deirdre?
Yes, this is Chairman.
Yep.
Department.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to discussion of improved committee information dissemination to the public. So, I apologize, this is going a lot longer than I expected, so try to keep it going. But, so this is an item that, certainly following Springtown meeting, and a lot of the discussions that came up, comments that were made during Springtown meeting, and candidly, discussion of items that occurred on the Millis Public Forum on Facebook, and during the election of the Select Board. There was a lot of comments on there about, people wish they knew more in advance of town meeting and kind of some of the items that this body, as well as others, the Select Board, which, they wanted to know, they wanted better awareness. And, I've been a public servant for most of my life. I can still say that. And, we, in some of my previous roles, we understood that it was important for people that provided public works and public services to push information rather than having residents pull information. We can post all the minutes we want, which, by the way, are great. There's an excellent amount of data in there, but asking people to pull that information is just not good enough. I want to provide the minutes to them, and I wanted to have, basically a dialogue on some ideas on what we could do. And one of the number one ideas that, that I want to incorporate or implement soon is to have an Instagram or an Instagram account where basically we send the link every time we have a meeting. Every time that there's meeting minutes posted, it's just a link to the minutes, and anybody that wants to subscribe or follow the Millis Finance Committee, they'll get that. And it's up to them to, we can only lead the horse to the water so much, but at least it's a push to the information on a regular basis as the minutes or as the information becomes available. That's one step. A technology solution doesn't work for everybody. We all should understand that. I'm not even on Instagram, and I don't frankly want to be. So, there is some details that need to be flushed out here, and actually maybe the burden becomes the clerk's, so who may now all of a sudden volunteer to be the vice, so he's not the clerk anymore. But anyway.
That would be new, Doug.
I can't do that because I'm not on Instagram, I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on Twitter, I don't have any, I'm a complete non-grid
What
person.
would help if it was Facebook, but not
It
Instagram?
doesn't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have to be in one of those three positions, but I just want to dive into it a little bit more, and it should be an ongoing discussion, especially, for instance, as there's a lead up to town, whether it be fall town meeting or spring town meeting, and I think we've swung and missed several times on our pre-town meetings, where we have the meeting, it's intended to really inform, but we're a little bit tied, our hands are tied because of the schedule that we're on. We don't get the budget soon enough, we're not voting on them soon enough. People get a week's notice, and then we're expecting everybody that's interested. That meeting is better attended than some of, like a meeting like today, but it's not as good as it could be, and I'd like to make some efforts going forward to put that information out there. I'm not suggesting that we have a big town meeting, spring town meeting or fall town meeting, and, clear the parking lot of the high school or clear the auditorium, hopefully, in the future. But I'd like to do something better. So if we're not going to take motions, I'm not going to, but I do want to hear your ideas, and I would like to at least plant the seed of what you think could work, whether you have those now or we come back next time we meet and we have some discussion on that. Because my takeaway, again, reading Facebook, listening to people at town meeting, is that we can do a better job, and we should. I'm not going to totally take responsibility for, our residents, town residents, not knowing what happens in this meeting. It's a public meeting. You do have to make some effort to find out the information. I just want to make that finding the information easy.
Well, I admire your wanting to do that, and I think that there should be possibly an in-the-know information that is not just our department, but multiple departments, and it could be a Facebook, because that seems to be where a lot of people are going to. There's a Millis Public Forum, but there's a complaint system on there. It's not an information.
That's Facebook page, Karen Gray.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny is that never pops up. I don't know.
Does it? No, I can't get on it.
It never pops up, and you can't get on it to ask questions or anything. I think there does need to be departmentally some kind of in the know, but the problem being that I see is the same people who complain about not knowing don't take the initiative to find out. So I have a real hard time with people complaining that they can't get the information when there is information available. They can attend meetings, there's so many meetings that they could go to get information, that to say that we're not doing our due diligence really bothers me. I mean, and I'm an old fart, so it's not like I'm somebody, if I can get the information through technology or by attending meetings, there are a lot of other people who could do the same.
But if we already have the technology and the website in place through the Millis, through
the town.
Millis
Through the town.
and we already have that, publishing the minutes there at least makes it more easily searchable. And perhaps another thing for those who are not so technologically inclined, I don't know if we could get a bulletin board at the Millis Library and just thumbtack them up to the board for people to peruse while they're there. So it's available in a couple of different formats for people to see.
Okay, that's
That's an
these
excellent idea.
These are all good ideas.
The
I like-
librarian can do that. They can
Right,
go on the
the
website,
librarian.
and print it out, and
I
stick
know.
it up on the
I
bulletin.
know,
Exactly.
really.
Right.
Doesn't need
And
a
the
directive
the
from
senior-
somebody to tell her to do
No.
it.
The senior director could do that, the senior
Yeah,
center.
right,
She could
exactly.
do that in there are different people, Clyde Brown School System could do it for
We can
their
use,
parents group.
employees and technology already in place instead
Right.
of...
I feel the big thing is with what Joyce is saying. If you compare what's available to the general public today versus just even 3 years ago, if you actually want to get there's a ton of information that's
There
now
really
all
is.
posted on the Millis Town website.
On the Finance Committee website, thanks to Deirdre.
Yeah, and-
These documents tonight will be there.
the minutes are
By the
posted,
time we
and-
drive home.
Exactly.
And-
So I always tell people, if you got any problems, you just click on the Finance Committee, and more information than the Select Board has, than any board has. This is there's no fudging numbers or anything,
I 100% agree with that, and I just think the next step is it's a flash, it's a bulletin that says there's been an update. Here's the information. Here's where you find it, and the way Instagram essentially works is there's a notification on your phone or on your app that says, hey, something's changed here. Go see it. Instead of people are busy. I'm not.
But people
There's
would
a lot of
still-
excuses for not, we volunteered and we accepted a responsibility to be here. There's a responsibility to seek out the information if you really want to know, and it takes time. Some people accept that. Some people, there's no silver bullet to 100% cover and provide the information. I totally understand that. I just feel like I want to hear your good ideas, and I'm hearing good ideas, things that we can do to increase it, just to help a little bit.
I don't disagree with your point. I just think it's I mean, the schools use a listserv and they just push it out. So regardless of what we do, people are still going to have to sign up
Yeah.
or subscribe to whatever, whether it's a listserv or whether it's a Facebook
Yeah.
or whatever it is. So they're still going to have to do something in order to then be, in the loop,
Right.
so that when we push stuff out, they get it.
Right. Again, we don't need to belabor it. We'll discuss it for a couple more minutes because I want to wrap this up. But please, if you have ideas, bring them back so that we can implement some and, just do a little bit better of a job. That's all.
Well, everybody gets a lot of people get the Millis Medway newspaper, and maybe that's something that, they do activities and stuff. Maybe what we do is we find out if the editor of the Millis Medway newspaper could put a little blurb in the paper saying, look XYZ for this, or if you're looking for, this is where you go. It'd be simple, because everybody reads that paper.
Yeah,
It's
he
not a-
prints a finance grade book, and that's a monthly paper, so just be monthly, so.
Well, that's why,
It's a month behind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, but just to say, this is where you can find information.
Here's the website kind of
Here's the
thing.
website. If you're looking for information, go to da-da-da-da. If you're looking for this information, go, if we could just do a list of informational,
okay.
that's all I'm, yeah.
Can you put it on the Millis cable channel that people look at?
Abs-
And have-
do they?
And run a banner on there?
I think that's a great idea.
I mean, these are excellent ideas, and if, let me just give you, for instance, one of the hot topic items, as we all know, lead up to the Springtown meeting, and especially at Springtown meeting, was the purchase of the property off of Village Street. And, I don't know I get the sense that snuck up on a lot of people, right or wrong. There was a lot of discussion at it. There were hearings, there were board meetings, planning board meetings, select board meetings, FinCom meetings. But there were still people that snuck up on, didn't necessarily know the viewpoints of either side. And so the ability to tell somebody that, one, the discussion is going to be had in advance of, like, hey, it's going to be on the agenda, and, oh, by the way, the discussion did happen a week after or a day after, hey, this happened. If you want to know the differing viewpoints, go to the Millis Public Media website and watch the video. Here's where you find it. It's, we're just telling people, we're just notifying them of what's going to happen, what happened. It's up to them to take some responsibility and find out about it for big items. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we're putting on their interdepartmental transfers or bills payable type stuff. It's the big stuff.
But Doug doesn't want to be the vice chair.
Yeah. There was
You can put that- you can banner ad that
on websites, on.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean, there was a
Of course.
lot about it.
Go ahead,
not it.
And those same people who complained to have not known about it, or why aren't we more informed, chose not to come to
Well,
the come to town meeting, so.
Your point is well made. There were a lot of discussion on there, but there was a lot of inaccurate information on there. A credit to Craig Schultz, as always.
Correct.
He's
For correcting it.
extremely knowledgeable, and we can't have our deliberations, or nor can any board have their deliberations on the Millis Public Forum. That would violate open forum or open meeting laws. But one person can correct the record and be accurate. Once I see, and Craig did a great job, and he's a credit to, he'll continue to be a credit to this town as he serves as a select board member, because he has a lot of knowledge and he gets it right, 95% of the time, maybe 99, I don't know, he's not here.
He'd
But-
say 99.
But anyway, so the Millis Public Forum discussion is okay, but I'd like to be able to disseminate the official discussion from our vantage point. I'm not worried about the select
No,
board.
I agree with you about that. I'm just saying that there was conversation, there were people who asked questions, there were people who gave information, and the same people who complained about not knowing, didn't,
Yep.
or knowing last minute, and were informed that there was going to be discussion and that there was going to be a vote on it, chose not to come to the town meeting.
But they never came.
That's,
They haven't been.
but
Yeah.
don't come,
Yeah, that, we get you.
A little
But I'd be
extra-
concerned, what I'd like to know, Mr. Chair, without taking too long, what do the, at the Glen think? Am I allowed to ask that? Here we have a whole new section of town with people coming in, and my sense is that a lot of people don't know how town government is run. They go to college, they stay in the city, they rent, they're working 24/7. They haven't figured out how civics is and how town government and how the money works from who comes. Where's our tax money going? I mean, how many times do you hear that?
That's the number
It's
one
just,
question.
and I always say, well, you go to Deirdre's website, and there is where every penny is spent. I mean,
We try
how
to put
much more
graphs
can
on
we
the
tell
report.
people? It's like, it comes down to just, there's three branches of government, and this is this, and this is that, and, people complain about the taxes. Well, this is where it goes. Come to town meeting if you're complaining.
right.
It's really, and we've been looking at, we're doing a video of the PFAS issue, and it's involving all the departments, and it's going to be on, we're working with Millis Cable. And then another discussion that we had was like how government runs. And it would be at that time where the chairs would just come and say, say a little bit about education, and it goes on YouTube after a while. So people could just sit and listen, and, not an hour or 2 hours long. This is, the money comes in, Carol Johnson et al., parse it out, pay the bills, and they don't realize how much health insurance town has to pay for its employees. They complain that their health insurance goes up on their paycheck. Well, multiply by how many, couple hundred, and you'll see, there's no one sneaking money, we're...
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
So I would definitely like to recommend that we use the town's Facebook page
Yeah.
more. I feel like it was set up and it's underused. I know that it doesn't really allow comments.
It's not, you can't respond to it.
Right,
It's
but-
more like, information similar to the reverse 911.
Correct, but we as a board could push out information and post our agenda and a link to our meeting materials.
But for
But-
some reason, that never pops up, though.
But,
Because
so,
there isn't much.
part of the reason that you can't respond is, again, because you can't have discussion
Right.
outside. of-
Which makes sense.
But my question then is, could there be, whether it be a link or something, where somebody could post a question that then makes it onto the agenda so that we can discuss it? Or at least we tell them,
Oh, that's so much
our next meeting is on this date, if you'd like to, because that's how items get on an agenda, is they notify you, they notify me, and we get to decide when and whether something gets on the agenda. It's not just show up here at any time, without announcement. Stuff has to be on the agenda for us to discuss it, because we have to publish it in advance. That's part of the rules of open meetings. So perhaps there's a way where if we did have some comments where we were providing information, then the next step is if somebody had questions on it, they could submit a question offline, not for discussion on Facebook, but
But where
Well,
we...
you just do an email link then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
To the chair or
Right,
Deirdre.
because,
And-
otherwise we're going to have to babysit that page to find out what the question is.
I don't want to.
No, it would go to your email, not to Facebook.
Deficit.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that the last thing I want to do is have discussions on Facebook. I mean, that's a full-time,
Well,
full-time
exactly.
position.
It is.
It's not
And-
what I'm advocating for.
No.
And Deidre's got enough to, so maybe,
So I believe the select board voted when they, for the Millis Facebook page, not to have residents be able to.
Right.
Complain, or whatever we can complain for.
Mhm.
I know that, I believe the recreation department has their own Facebook.
they do.
I
So
wouldn't,
I have to ask Karen.
Okay, well-
And see if the select board would have to approve that, or.
Okay, well, let me just wrap this discussion up, if I may, just so that we can
Go on.
keep this under 15 minutes or 30 minutes. And this will be on the agenda in the future so that we can see, what we've done to act on some of these ideas and discuss some other ideas. So I appreciate everybody's input on these. Okay, so we have a couple of bills to pay. I'm going to defer to my colleague on my right to review those and perhaps make a motion. I did that?
Smooth.
So you want me to,
So what you
this
do
is
is
for
you'll make a motion to pay the amount of
$5,500
for
Clear Government Software.
Yep. And do we have to specify a funding source?
No, it's
No.
Okay.
It's a budget already.
Just, and who they're going to be paid to.
It is going to be paid to Clear Government Software of the amount of
Yeah, sounds good.
$5,500, and it's paid to Clear Government, Inc. So it was for Clear Government Software,
Yeah.
and it's being paid to Clear Government, Inc.
In the amount of $5,500.
in the amount of $5,500.
Just say, I move
I move
that we approve.
that we approve. I move.
From the top.
I move that we approve the funding of $5,500 for line item Clear Government Software to be paid to Clear Government, Inc.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we vote to approve payment of $5,500 for Clear Government Software, which is the software that we use to show the town's expenditures and revenue, and it's provided by Clear Government Incorporated. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
do we have a reason to delay payment on this, given the delay in the updating of the information?
Please
Elaborate.
inform us.
You must have missed that. That was an offline discussion, I guess. Apparently, they've had the information. Deirdre can maybe, or Carol.
Yeah,
Carol mentioned
had it. I'm sure they'll have it.
it's been sent in, but right now, the most recent year is fiscal 20.
Yeah.
So in-
21 just ended, when it has to be like finalized tomorrow, the 15th, then I'm sure they'll look for the bid in a few weeks.
Well, I was under the impression that they already had it. They had the budget information for fiscal year 2021, and that's not,
They were having a coding issue, I
that's
think.
not been updated.
Oh, okay, then I must have missed.
So, in response to your question, I was not aware that they have not posted the data, and I'm not sure of the contractual requirement. I will tell you that the date on this bill is 1 July. It's due 30, basically net 30, 7/31. The bill was sent to Mike Kaczynski. I'm assuming that he's aware of the bill, and thus he recommends that we vote to approve the bill. Whether Clear Inc. is delinquent in providing services, I don't know that, and unfortunately, he's not here. And I mean, we could convene another meeting prior to 7/31, or we could pay the bill late. Deirdre, can you, and I don't want, maybe you may want to step up to the mic, by the way. No? Okay.
Come on, Deidre, I just did the motion.
So my question, though, is do you have any more information along these lines? I don't want to make assumptions, and we basically...
I mean, we paid it late, it was 1 year because it was emailed to Mike, and so I never got it. So why he's on the account instead of for myself or the chair, I don't know. So it has been paid late before, so it's really entirely up to you.
Okay, well, I don't-
It's September,
Okay.
I know they forwarded it to me and said, here it is for approval.
Okay. Mr. Andrea?
So is this clear.gov, this isn't just for FY21, this is all past fiscal years as well? Do they maintain the servers and the database for that as well, or is this just a service for FY21?
I believe this is just for FY20. I believe we've paid previously for previous years.
It's a subscription.
It's an annual subscription.
Okay.
But you should be able to go back to previous years
Yes.
on the clear.
So we're paying for that service for previous fiscal years already. So
We
it's
had
not
already.
just,
Yes.
it's not just FY '21, we're talking FY '14 through whatever we have to maintain.
Well,
So
we
we're
didn't go
receiving
that
more
far back.
services than that.
So in terms of discussion, I agree with Doug.
I do too.
I'm happy to defer this, let it sit, and take it up another time. I don't want to vote on lack of information. If Mike was here, and Mike was going to come here, he had something pop up, Mike would know the answer to this. He would likely advise us, and we would pepper him with some questions, and then we would make a decision, an informed decision. I don't feel compelled to make a decision not knowing the facts. So,
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
From what I heard from Carol, it seemed like it was just a matter of days before they would resolve the issue that was preventing them from fully uploading the 21
Yeah.
information. So, I mean, my feeling is we have decided that we want to use this software. So, yes, we can delay payment, but it's not like the bill's going to go away. We're going to pay this eventually. So I would recommend just approving it, and then,
Okay.
it's off our plate, it's off everyone's plate dealing with, and then they can just continue to deal with them on the uploading of the data
Okay.
that needs to happen.
okay, any other comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Stebbins?
Can we approve this with the caveat that it's up to Mr. Gazinski's discretion when to release the funds?
I don't know the answer to that question. I would defer that question to Mr. Gazinski. I suspect that no, once we vote, it's our authority to pay the bill, and we're telling him to pay the bill.
Thank you.
Otherwise, we wouldn't vote on it. He would just approve. He would have the authority resident within his office to pay the
Excellent
bill.
question.
But I don't know for certain.
Because this
Thank
comes
you.
out of our budget, right?
It was an excellent question.
So we've had good
Don't look
discussion.
at me
There's
like that.
multiple points for and against it. Let's vote. Okay? So all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against paying the bill and against the motion, please say nay. Passes. Okay? Thank you. Ready?
No, this is painful, because my memory's terrible.
I move.
I move to allocate funds in the amount of $180 to the Association of Town Finance Committee for the dues and subscriptions.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to appropriate funds or allocate funds in the amount of $180 for dues and subscriptions paid to the Association of Town Finance Committees. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I just recommend that our newest members go to their website. There's a lot of good information there from other town finance committees and information from the state and everything. They do a good job. It's a little heavy and not super user-friendly, but the longer I've been on the finance committee, the more useful I find the information that's there.
What's the website?
Thank you, Jerry.
It's the Association of Town Finance Committee, the Massachusetts Association of Town Finance Committees. And it has the rules, what is it, town meeting time or whatever the name of that.
Yeah, I
Andrew,
mean,
would you mind including the website in the meeting minutes for this meeting? Thank you.
Yeah. It
Oh,
has
here
more
it is. It's
information,
on the
but
back.
it can be useful.
Great. Mr. Underhill?
Just, what do we get for the subscription? What does this purchase?
Yeah, I didn't see WW.
Likely, there's periodicals, information, and we get to, one of the things, we will belong to the association, and typically, they will hold 1 or 2 meetings a year. We'll get an invite, we'll end up having to pay for whoever we send, and again, I would recommend that you would participate, consider going to the meeting. You'll meet other finance committee members, other state officials. It's more of just kind of like a professional, it's congruent to a professional development or a professional society for those finance committees, municipal finance
It's helpful.
committees.
Good.
Okay? All right. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any dissenting? Please say nay. And it passes unanimously.
Want me to sign that?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, just in terms of closing comments, I apologize, I'm very rusty, and this has been very clunky, and I'm way over time, so beyond that, I apologize. I also apologize for my appearance, I just came from a baseball game. I hope to be a little bit more presentable and professional in the future. And I want to say thank you for taking time out of your summer schedule, and hope you're enjoying your summer, albeit a rainy one. Okay, with that, I will take a motion.
I move to approve the minutes from our previous meetings.
Oh, that's to approve the money?
Yeah,
I can
you can
sign
sign those.
that. Yeah, I can sign that.
Second.
Our March 31st meeting, we'll start with that one.
Okay, so actually, we do not have, 1, 2, 3, 5, so we do have a quorum
Oops.
to vote on this.
We do.
Okay, so, would you do them one at a time?
Yes, so I move that we approve the minutes as written for our March 31st committee meeting.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for the March 31st meeting. Discussion. None heard? All those in favor, should be 5 of us present, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? None? And should be 2 abstentions. Just
Abstain?
okay.
And Mr.
31
Chair?
March passes, Deirdre.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Drew.
I move that we approve the Finance Committee meeting of May 1st, which was the town meeting, as written.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the meeting minutes from the May 1st meeting. Discussion. None heard? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? None heard? Passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair.
Abstain?
Abstention?
Abstain.
2 abstentions.
Mr. Chair, I have a
Thank you.
question, procedural. When are these posted and available to the public? After they're approved, or?
So I believe Deirdre posts drafts. I found one of
Okay.
them in draft form. She'll likely remove the watermark and repost, but correct me if
That's
I'm
good.
wrong.
Yeah, I have to.
Yep, it's been a while. But typically,
Okay.
1 week to 2 weeks?
Yeah.
2 weeks, I would say 2 weeks, generally.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I actually think it speaks to that in our policy and procedures document. It says, there's something
Did
in
you
there.
get a copy of the policy
we'll
and procedure
verify.
document?
Yes. I did not memorize it.
Okay. No, do
Deirdre
you,
takes care of
Okay.
it.
no, I
Thank
just
you.
didn't know if you had gotten it.
There are occasions when we'll have 3-hour meetings. So
Yep.
it's an extensive amount of information. Deirdre watches the video multiple times. God bless you.
Only if I have it.
So, okay,
Yes.
with that, I will take another motion.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Garzon.
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody.